Can't do it simultaneously. All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome. I'm working on clicking that go live button over on Insta. Can't do it simultaneously. So here we are. All right. Happy Thursday. I am so excited to be here with everyone today. And those of you that are just hopping on, welcome. Leslie Bytel here. And let me just say, you guys are in for such a special treat. Especially if you're an integrative functional practitioner, dietitian, especially if you're a licensed practitioner, right? And you're in private practice and you are often finding yourself pondering how to keep yourself safe from a legal perspective, right? i.e., licensure and crossing state lines. So I'm so delighted. Today we are going to be chatting with Lisa Fraley from Lisa Fraley Legal Coach LLC. And today's topic is how to stay legally safe, licensure, and crossing state lines. So welcome, Lisa. So delighted.
Thank you so much for having me back, Leslie. It's great to be here with you. These are huge topics that everyone asks about. So I love that you're dedicating this time together to talk about it.
I am too. It's a really hot topic. So really looking forward to it. So everyone, before we dive in, what I want to do is just briefly read Lisa's bio, just so you have a little bit of background. My hunch is that many, if not most of you know Lisa. But for those of you who don't, Lisa Fraley is an attorney, legal coach, speaker, podcast host, and author who blends her legal expertise as a former healthcare attorney in a large law firm and the care of a health coach through IIN. She helps licensed practitioners like RDs and health coaches protect themselves with contracts, disclaimers, trademarks, DIY legal templates, and of course, much more. So again, big warm welcome to Lisa. I cannot wait to delve into this conversation.
Thank you, Leslie.
All right. I'm going to peek over here. Let's see. Okay. So we are officially live on Instagram. That didn't take the first time, but we are live now. So welcome those of you that are joining us on Instagram as well. So I would love, especially for our audience, parts of our audience who may not be familiar with your work.
Sure.
How did you end up here? Right? Going from a legal firm to such really just such a great entrepreneurial kind of a journey.
Thank you. Yes, this is always a question of, right? How did we all end up where we are now?
Right.
So I've helped literally thousands of functional and holistic and licensed practitioners and health coaches figure out how to operate in the online space in a way that is accessible and easy and using user-friendly language, not scary, stuffy legal documents. Because I started off in a big, giant law firm, which was very well regarded. And actually, I got incredible training. And like a lot of people who've worked in big corporate anything, it takes a lot out of you. So I always love to share that I was living on literally like peanut M&Ms and coffee and Coke. Oh, and I ended up, I know this. I mean, I literally in my desk drawer would have that giant bag of peanut M&Ms and I would just like literally take my hand in and eat them at my desk because we worked long hours. It was exhausting. The culture isn't known for taking care of themselves. It's known for working hard. And that's fabulous. However, it takes a toll on you, on your health, on your mental health, obviously. So I ended up becoming a life coach right after that through Coach U, and then farther down the road became a health coach through IIN. And I hung up my shingle as a health coach. I ended up, Leslie, working with 100 clients the first year. I did 72 paid corporate wellness seminars. Like I was a full-fledged health coach. But what happened was so many of my health coaching friends said, Lisa, you're actually also a lawyer who understands licenses and state laws, and we need you to help us. And I was like, no, I don't want to be a lawyer. No. Like, I don't want to do that again, because I thought, like probably most of us, we had to do it the way we learned in the conventional, traditional setting. Right. And obviously, even though I have to follow legal guidelines and ethical guidelines, of course, I learned that I could infuse more love and kindness and care into the law and not make it seem so cold and corporate and scary, to help people really protect their practices on the front end and know what they can and can't do legally on the front end so that they can stay out of trouble in investigations and lawsuits. And that felt much better to me. So in 2012 and then full-time in 2013, I started this online working with people all over to help them understand legal concepts and legal education around nutrition laws and licensure and whatnot, so they can go out and have the practices that they want.
Oh, I love that. I love it. I know you have helped so many people.
Yes, I've been very grateful and honored to do that. And it makes me happy to help other people do what they want to do.
Awesome. Yeah, because it's very murky. Like
it can feel murky. It definitely can feel murky.
You know, I've shared with you before, hardly a day goes by when I don't have like some kind of conversation around this. So I am really, really happy to have you here as the legal expert.
Thank you.
I'd love to hear from our audience, just get a little bit of feedback so that we can kind of customize our conversation with Lisa today. Who do we have here? Who is here? And specifically, just, let me know what state you're in and what is your designation as a health professional. That would be, I think, really helpful to kind of kick off our conversation with Lisa. And then so while we're waiting for some responses to come in, let's jump into our conversation. So my guess is today, Lisa, that we've probably got RDs, right? Several RDs joining us. We'll find out when the comments come in, but also I'm guessing we probably have some other types of licensed practitioners. Sure. Probably some naturopathic doctors, maybe some functional medicine MDs or DOs.
Sure.
So we'll see when we get those responses in, but that's my guess off the top of my head. So first of all, is licensure kind of the same? Like, do the rules, are there different rules for different types of practitioners?
Great question. Okay. So the rules around the practitioners that apply to is what's called your scope of practice in your state for your profession. So for example, if you're a registered dietitian in a certain state, you follow the registered dietitian law of that state. If you're a chiropractic physician, for example, some chiropractors are allowed to do functional nutrition in their scope of practice. Many aren't. If you're a naturopathic doctor, obviously you can work with nutrition in your scope of practice. If you're some other type, like a speech pathologist or a massage therapist or a dentist or other licensed professions, nutrition is not in your scope of practice. So the first place you start, as you are indicating, Leslie, is with what does your specific licensure allow you to do already in your profession? And then when you wish to expand beyond that across state lines or to other states, different things apply, and we can talk about that. But in general, start with refreshing yourself. I know you probably learned it in your graduate school or medical school along the way, but you probably haven't looked at it in a long time, because who wants to do that? But now is the time we invite you to look up your state law or contact me. I'm happy to help you look to find out what your licensure actually allows you to do.
Okay. So we've got some responses in. Okay. Allison, welcome. Allison is from Louisiana and she is an RD with many
totally.
Credentials. So happy to have you. And oh my goodness, my wonderful client, Dr. Ellie, is here. And Ellie is in North Carolina. She's a DO and integrative brain health specialist for kiddos.
Cool.
So happy to have you here, Ellie. Let's see who else. Okay. So like I guess we've got a mixture. So welcome, Nicole. Nicole's a naturopathic doctor in Canada. And said she'd be appreciative of any resources that you might know of for Canadians.
Totally.
Okay. Aya. Looks like Dr. Aya, OBGYN, integrative health provider. So we have got a big mix. Okay, let's see. All right. And Deanna, RDPA. And SC. I'm not sure what SC is, but do you know what SC is? I'm not positive.
I don't off the top of my head. Looks like PA would be physician assistant. You may have just said that. And SC, I'm not sure either.
Okay. And Terry.
Wellness coach.
Congratulations on getting that board certification. That is not a small feat. So congrats on that. Okay, awesome. So yeah, we've got a huge mix. And we have questions coming in. I'll tell you what, let's kind of go through some of what we wanted to talk about today, and we'll kind of we'll circle back to questions.
Perfect.
I think it's going to be a very lively conversation today, Lisa. I hope you're ready.
I'm ready.
You are. All right. All right. Bottom line is we start with our own state, right? We need to revisit our scope of practice.
Yes.
For our particular license within our state.
Correct.
I think that is super important from what I understand.
Yes.
And maybe something that we sometimes forget. It's not always, let's just look at the state where the patient lives, right? It's also what does our license that we currently hold allow us to do, right?
Yeah. And the reason for that is because when you're licensed in a particular state, you're working with patients in that state. So just to be clear, right now, many of you, except the health coach we just saw who joined us, Terry, for the rest of you who've shared your location and identity, you all are licensed practitioners. So as you know, you work with people in the state where you're licensed in a patient relationship as a medical practitioner. We're going to contrast that with a health and wellness coach who is not licensed, who is bound by different laws. But basically, the idea is that you're talking about a patient relationship with an integrative approach, or you're talking about health coaching. They are not the same. They are not the same thing. They are two different professions entirely, and we'll dive into that a little deeper.
Okay. And by the way, we also have on Instagram a nurse practitioner in California.
Oh, great.
Oh, hang on.
Fabulous.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Awesome. So, good deal. So we've got so many comments rolling in. Okay. So we start with the current scope of practice within our state. So can you now explain, and I know things start to get a little crazy, how does one safely cross state lines? I mean, especially with telehealth just being so readily available, there seems to be a lot of confusion, including, can I cross state lines if I'm cash-based? Like, versus insurance, like that is another point of confusion. So I'll make this all in your court, Lisa.
Great. No, this is great, Leslie. These are wonderful questions. So first of all, for everyone listening, we're going to first talk about people who are licensed. Okay. This is only for licensed medical practitioners first. Then we're going to talk about health coaching separately. So as a licensed medical practitioner, as Leslie mentioned, first you check your scope of practice to see if nutrition is already in your scope of practice and the ability to do functional work. The second thing that you're going to want to understand is that telehealth laws apply only to the states where you're licensed. So, for example, you are allowed as a licensed medical practitioner to practice telehealth with patients in the states where you're licensed. So telehealth isn't meant to be used for anyone in any state anywhere. It has to do with contacting people and working with patients in your states where you're licensed by video, by phone, and the laws surrounding that and getting their permission to have a telehealth appointment as opposed to an in-person appointment. Obviously, during the pandemic, that changed so much, and telehealth really expanded to where you don't even have to, in all but like 2 states, you don't even have to establish your patient relationship with a one-on-one appointment in live person to person. You can establish it by telehealth. And some states require that you use a telehealth consent form. Some require that you take a notation in the patient record, and some need just verbal consent. Obviously, I'm going to recommend, it's always best practice to have a telehealth written consent form. I certainly have a DIY copy to make it easy for people to do that, but you want to make sure you have record of using telehealth. But what's very clear is I think sometimes people, Leslie, use the word telehealth to confuse that and conflate that with health coaching, and that's going to be something different. So telehealth is only for patients in states where you're licensed. Okay. Now, the third question you asked was around crossing state lines, or especially working with a cash-based practice. So
Mhm.
let me just back up a second. You can have a cash-based practice as a licensed medical practitioner. It has nothing to do with HIPAA. It has nothing to do with insurance. You can just be a private pay cash-based practice. That does have implications, though, for Medicare. If you take Medicare and Medicaid patients, you do need to get clear legally about how that works. But in general, you can have a cash-based practice. Doesn't change anything. You're still working with patients in the states where you're licensed. You can use telehealth and you can take cash. So let's just pause there for a second to make sure there isn't anything else you wanted to add to that, Leslie, or any other questions around that.
No, I mean, I think you made that really clear.
Okay, good,
Yeah,
good, good.
I think so. I'm looking at the questions here.
Good. Well,
Yeah.
here's an interesting thing while Leslie's looking at the questions. You all, the law is actually quite clear. It feels murky, it feels gray, it feels confusing, but it's actually not confusing because really nothing has changed from what you learned in medical school or graduate school around needing to be in a patient relationship, about needing to be licensed in the states where your patients are located. The only things that have shifted a little bit, as I mentioned, were the telehealth laws. So you have more freedom in the telehealth situation, but nothing has changed about state lines. You cannot have patient relationships across state lines. Can't hold yourself out as a doctor or a nurse practitioner or a registered dietitian and specifically work with people across state lines because you are a medical practitioner who works with patients. Even if your profession calls them clients, like I know a lot of RDs call them clients,
Yeah.
it's still a patient. It's still a medical practitioner, scope of practice, state medical law. Like you're still working with patients, even if you call them clients, as an RD or someone, a therapist, etc. So that's all really clear, you all. I know we don't love that. We don't love that because we want to be more holistic. We want to be more expansive, but that's just the way it is. Now, there are things you can do as a licensed medical practitioner to reach people across state lines, but not in a one-on-one relationship. Not one-on-one. Not
Unless you
one-on-one.
have a license in that state.
Unless you have a license in that state. That's right. Exactly, Leslie. So
Right.
where the biggest risk people are taking right now is wanting to work one-on-one with people in states where they're not licensed.
Yes.
And for a licensed medical practitioner, that is still not legal.
Okay.
Nothing has changed.
And is it safe to assume then, Lisa, that because this is another question that comes up,
Sure.
they'll get, people like licensed practitioners getting referrals from a patient or client in the UK or
Yeah.
overseas?
Yeah, I mean, so the way that works, you all, is you would have to follow the licensure laws of the UK or the country overseas. If they let you work with a patient there, and sometimes you can get a temporary ability to do that, just like in the US, in some states, you can get a temporary ability to be a consulting physician or consulting medical practitioner on a case where there's another not primary care physician, but primary practitioner that's their patient and you're consulting for that patient, but they're not your patient, they're their patient. You're just coming in as an expert to help. There are exceptions to licensure laws like that, but that's not what most people are talking about when we have conversations like this, Leslie. They just want to work, they just want to be licensed in Kansas and work with someone one-on-one in California and be an RD or be a doctor or be a nurse or be a nurse practitioner. That's what we're talking about. And so right now in your medical practice, nothing has changed. Okay. Except you can do some things with groups. You can do some things with DIY self-study products. You can expand your offers. But again, I'm just going to hammer this home with love, not one-on-one with people outside of your state, because that is what can be perceived as you having a patient relationship, a one-on-one patient relationship in states where you're not licensed. That's the biggest risk.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, I got to ask a quick question, if you don't
Sure.
mind. Now a good time? Okay.
Sure.
So, all right. So, do you remember not very long ago, we used to look at the map, like green,
Yes, right. Of course.
or I think there were orange
We
states.
still have a map. It
All right.
still exists.
So, are we still
Yes.
considering it? And guys,
Yes.
for those of you, and I don't know if other types of practitioners have or had anything like this, but for licensed dietitians, I don't know. We used to kind of look at this
Yeah,
map where
we
each.
do.
Okay, so we're still looking at
Yep.
that.
I can
Okay.
explain that.
Okay.
So what Leslie's referring to is there is an organization right now. It's you can look at the it's the ADA the ADA.org, I believe, /advocate. So it's the American Dietetics Association, and they have literally a physical map on their website with different states and different colors. And what that means, it's sort of a snapshot and a quick glance as to which states have permissive dietetics laws that are more flexible, that allow you to either practice there without a license or use a certain title. Then we have other states that are more restrictive, where you cannot do one-on-one work there at all unless you're a registered dietitian or a licensed medical practitioner with nutrition in your scope of practice. And then other states, you can work with people there, but you just can't call yourself an RD. There's a title protection. You have to be licensed in that state to call yourself an RD in that state. So the states are like a traffic light. Green states are more permissive. Yellow states are usually title protection. And red states mean you can't work with people one-on-one, generally speaking. Some states you can't even work in groups, and some states you can't even educate. So there are 35 states that are either green or yellow, where you have some leeway, but we'll talk about this. The red states, there's still 15 red states where you cannot work one-on-one with people unless you're an RD in a patient relationship and licensed in that state, or a licensed medical practitioner with dietetics in your scope of practice or nutrition in your scope of practice, and you're licensed in that state. Now, where we run into issues is Leslie, RDs especially will say, well, Lisa, there's no licensure law in that state. Can't I just be an RD if I'm licensed over here in Maryland? Can't I just work with someone in a state that doesn't have it's not red? And I'll come back to them and say that the trick is, if you have RD all over your website and you call yourself Leslie Vitale RD or Lisa Fraley RD or someone else LDN, the problem is the use of that title. If your client is in one of those states, your patient's in one of those states with a title protection state, you using your title on your website and working with someone in that state where you're not licensed, where that title is protected, that's what can get you in trouble. You can't hold yourself out and call yourself an RD in a state that has a title protection law. That's the why we can't just have you work with people everywhere. And people say, well, why does it matter? You know, if someone's else in a state that's not red, I should be able to work there. And I get that. And I want that for you, but we're not there yet. We're not there yet. So this is why we're being very clear of establishing this is what an RD or a doctor or a nurse can do in a patient relationship. And then in a minute, we're going to talk more about health coaching. And by the way, really quickly, for whoever's here listening from Canada or outside the US, this all applies to you too, because if you're working with a client or someone in the US, you have to follow the US state law of what that state is too. So it doesn't matter where you are to a degree, it matters what is happening in those state laws and what you can call yourself and what you can't. That's why it gets a little confusing.
Okay.
But that's the lay of the land of the state map. You still want to click on your state and see exactly what the law says, because there's variations there. Again, some red states you can't work with one-on-one. Some red states you can do groups. Some states you can't, some states you can educate, some states you can't. So we're moving in the right direction. It's just taking a while.
Okay. So, and just one point of clarification then. So I get that those yellow states have title protection, at least for RDs, right? What about the green states?
Some states have title protection as well, but some don't. Some don't, and some are more allowing you to, they're more clear about what you can and can't do. They're more clear in, there's either a carve out for people who are not licensed to be able to work with dietetics or nutrition. There's more freedom there. So it really depends on the state. The map is just designed to try to help you understand, even if there's no restriction in the yellow state of what you can and can't do, you can't use the title even. That's why, again, you don't want to have on your website RD, 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 and your client is in a title protection state.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
It's making sense. Hopefully you guys are understanding. I really was curious about that map. So if that was still a viable tool.
Yeah, it sure is.
So can you comment then, what can a licensed practitioner do across state lines?
Sure.
Without getting in trouble? This is probably the part that most critical, right?
Right. Okay. So, and I haven't forgotten you health coaches. Don't worry. We're getting to you. We're hanging there. This is part of this. Okay. So if you're a licensed practitioner, you are allowed to, in your licensed practitioner medical practice, you are allowed to educate people. What does that mean? Whether they're in your state or not, you can do some of the things that Lesli teaches you so brilliantly. Like you can do things like have a group program that's educational only, not where you're answering personalized questions from people about their situation. Nope. That's considered one-on-one. Don't want to do that. But you can have a group program and group Q&A calls and answer questions that apply to everyone who might be asking you a question about, like the person on the Q&A call might say, well, I'm diabetic and I don't know what I should eat to balance my blood sugar. And the way you would answer that in a group setting is what I say to anyone who's diabetic is, first of all, work with your doctor about your medical situation, but then also everyone should know these principles of how to balance your blood sugar. And actually you should know them whether you're diabetic or not. Here's how you can combine foods. Here's how you can eat protein or healthy fat or fiber before and with your carbs. Here's how you bring dessert and eat it with your meal. Like you can teach people concepts that apply to everyone. That's purely education. So group programs, you can educate people about health and wellness principles that will help them. It's just that you're not saying, Lisa, you do this for your diabetes. Mary, you do this for your diabetes. Jim, you do this for your diabetes. You tell people to go to their own doctors and licensed medical practitioners to manage their insulin, to talk about their specific diabetes situation, talk about their specific healthcare situation. You're there to educate in a group setting. So that's exciting because unless he's really great at teaching you all of this, how to expand, as you all know, probably to expand your income in ways that are safe. The other thing you can do as a licensed medical practitioner is create do-it-yourself self-study programs, like how to improve your gut microbiome, or how to build your immune system, or how to understand what IBS is and the different treatment options for IBS. Again, you're telling everyone the same thing, like what you would put in a book or you put on a blog post. You would write the same thing to everyone, but you can give really specific and important DIY information about your medical specialty or about dietetics or whatever it is you want to teach. It's just that you're telling everyone the same thing. Now, did you note the theme with the groups and the DIY? The theme is that you're teaching everyone the same thing.
Yes.
That's how you stay safe as a doctor or nurse practitioner, registered dietitian, trying to expand your income and reach people in bigger ways. But remember, no one-on-one outside state lines, or outside of a patient relationship. See, that's pretty clear.
Yeah,
I think that's pretty clear. And Leslie's brilliant at teaching you all of this.
Oh,
Brilliant.
thank you, Lisa.
Yes.
It's kind of like writing a book, right? Like,
totally.
To me, that is kind
That's
of a good
right.
analogy. But where things get a little bit dangerous, perhaps, is, from my understanding, if you take like certain people and start looking at their medical history, and if you start saying, okay, so for you,
that's right.
Here's what I recommend for you. Here's what I recommend for you based on your history, right? So I think that is where we get into trouble. And the other thing, I'm just going to put this out there, is so I love the idea of hybrid programs so very much. Like, they're awesome, but to be clear, they need to be in your state, right?
Yes. And Lesli,
that too.
That's right. Okay, so let's talk about hybrid programs, and then I'm going to segue into the health coaching part. Okay. So our poor little health coaches who are with us have been so patient. So hang in there, friends. Hang in there. Okay. So, and I say that facetiously. I'm a health coach. There's nothing poor or little about you. I'm being facetious. Okay. So here's the deal. As Lesli mentioned, you can have a hybrid program as a licensed medical practitioner where you have a group component. You might have the group Q&A calls. You might have a Facebook group or private forum, or you might Voxer them or whatever. But the thing is that if you're dealing with anything about their specific patient care, even in a Voxer, you have to do that through your EMR. You have to do that in a medical appointment. You have to do that through telehealth appointments and have the informed consent and sign all the right forms and the telehealth consent form and all of that. So you can do both for people who are in your states where you're licensed. That's great because you don't have time to educate them about all these things in the medical appointments. So you can give them these modules or videos or whatever that they can learn from. That is fabulous. Again, those are for people in your state. So then you have the people who say, well, Lisa, but I really, really, really want to expand across state lines and work with people outside of my state. How do I do that? Okay. So I use my hands to symbolize, again, this is like your medical practice over here, group programs, DIY programs, hybrid programs with people in your state. We're all set. We're clear on that. Now, health coach friends, here's the situation. Whether you are licensed or not, and you would like to work with people across state lines, then what the way that you protect yourself is you actually, if you're licensed, you need to form a separate business as a health coach. You need to get separate education as a health coach or wellness coach or functional nutrition practitioner or something. And I know all you RDs listening are like, Lisa, that's ridiculous. I've been an RD for 30 years. Like, why in the world would I go get a health coaching certification? I know all about nutrition. I'm an expert. I know what I'm talking about. And I say, yes, 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 you do. And here's the thing. You want to come over here and get health coach training. Why? Because if you are ever investigated and they say to you, oh, you're a health coach, you're working with people across state lines, fabulous. Where did you get your training? And you say, oh, I don't have any health coach training. I've been an RD for 20 years. I know what I'm talking about. I have a master's degree. I have a PhD. Whatever you are, like I have a doctorate, whatever. I know what I'm talking about. The investigator is going to say, oh, well, if you have that much training in dietetics, that is fabulous. But that must mean you're practicing dietetics because that is the only thing you've been trained in. You've been trained very extensively. You're extremely knowledgeable. But if that's what you've been trained in, then that's clearly what you're doing because you have not been trained in something other than that. You have not been trained in a profession separate from that. Coaching is separate from dietetics or medicine. So I want you to get a health coach training. I want you to set up a separate health coach business. What I mean by that is a separate LLC, a separate website, a separate customer service. You're not using an EMR. You use separate legal documents like a client agreement with your coaching clients, which is not informed consent. Okay. You have a separate business as a health coach. Then you can work with people across state lines, except you cannot do medical nutrition therapy. And as health coaches, all my health coach friends listening, you cannot work with diseases. So you cannot be a Hashimoto's coach or a diabetes coach or help people with their diabetes. They need to go to their doctor and work with their doctor about their diabetes or their Hashimoto's. You can teach them about thyroid health, gut health, brain health, heart health, healthy microbiomes in your gut. You can teach them about how to move towards greater health, how to have a healthier microbiome, how to have better brain health, how to have better heart health. But you're not going to work with their specific disease like heart disease or hypertension because those are medical diseases that need to be managed by their medical doctors and nurses. And when you think about that, it makes perfect sense because why in the world would you have to go get a license to be a dietitian or a doctor or a nurse or any other profession if you could work with people everywhere? Like, think that's my mic drop moment. Like, wait, what? Then we wouldn't even need to have a license. But clearly you had to do all kinds of training to learn how to do medical nutrition therapy as a doctor, as an RD, as a licensed nutritionist. And that required you to get a license around that. So we can't have all of us beautiful health coaches out there doing that because we are not trained to know how to do that. So health coaching and dietetics are sisters, I like to say. They are not twins. They're not twins. That medicine and health coaching are sisters. They're not, or brothers, or however you want to describe it, but they are not twins. They're different. They're different. And the example I love to give to really hammer this home in the best way is that we all sort of understand the difference between a physical therapist and a personal trainer. Let's think about this. Okay. Let's say someone goes to a physical therapist because they, like me, I had a complete tear of my ACL. I had knee surgery. I went to physical therapy for 12 weeks to do what? Rehabilitate my knee, treat the injury, which is the knee, treatment for the knee to try to get it back to its original state. But then let's say I go to the personal trainer and I'm like, hey, I want to run a marathon. They can ask me and should ask me, have you had any injuries? Have you had any surgeries? Are you on any medication? What do I need to know about your health situation so that when I train you for the marathon, I am aware that you're maybe have high blood pressure, or maybe you're diabetic, or maybe you had knee surgery 3 months ago. So I'm not going to take you out sprinting like tomorrow, because the personal trainer still has a duty not to injure you further. But the job of the personal trainer, and this is the key, is not to rehabilitate the knee. The personal trainer's job, which is like a health coach, is not to rehabilitate the knee. That is the equivalent of providing treatment for a medical issue. So as a health coach, your job is to help people move forward in their health and wellness goals, to lose weight or have more energy or be healthier or have better gut health or better digestion or better elimination or better whatever. But it's not to address the Hashimoto's or the hypertension or the diabetes or the disease that requires treatment or medical nutrition therapy from the dietitian or the doctor. See, it's like super clear when we talk about personal trainers and physical therapists, but somehow we get murky when we're talking about dietetics and health coaching, when it's really the same thing. Dietitians help people with a medical treatment for using nutrition intervention, and you all know this better than I do, for usually a medical diagnosis. Health coaches do not work with medical diagnoses. We help people meet them where they are and help them accomplish their goals moving forward to be healthier and have healthier systems operating in their body. That's the best way I know how to explain that.
I think it's a great analogy. I hope it's super helpful.
I hope it's helpful.
Let's see. But you can educate about disease if in a group setting.
Okay, so the answer to that, Aya, is yes, and okay, you can educate about. Now, see, here's the thing, though. You have to be really careful, because let's just take diabetes, because it's such an easy example. We all know that everyone needs to learn how to balance their blood sugar, right? And reduce inflammation in their body and help their body move with comfort and not have pain and joint inflammation, etc. Like, everyone needs to be able to learn how to manage their blood sugar. So you can teach about everyone as a health coach how to balance their blood sugar. And you can teach, this is what diabetes is. These are the typical treatments for diabetes. These are alternatives to how to start learning how to balance your own blood sugar. Here's what you need to ask your doctor about. Here are questions to take to your doctor. You can do all that as a health coach or as a licensed medical practitioner in a group program or a DIY self-study program, okay? Because that's still not personalized. That's still not answering personal questions about Jim's diabetes or Lisa's diabetes or Susie's diabetes. So yes, you can educate in a group setting, whether you do that as a licensed medical practitioner or as a health coach, because it's education. If you can put it in a book, you can teach that. So that's the way to remember it. It's just not personalized about each person. That's where you get in trouble. Okay, cool. Hopefully that helps.
And this is from Dr. Ellie.
Great.
So she says, I have clients that live in Cali who I see when they are in Cali with their mom. They go to college though. So can mom mail them their supplements if she orders them from me to a different state?
Yeah, the college exception is kind of a weird one, because it depends on the state, actually, because some states still consider the parent's address to be the permanent address for the student. And Leslie, you might even be able to speak to this better than I do with children who've gone through college. Yeah. But and then other states, like especially for things like voter registration, they allow the college address to be considered the permanent address for the student to be able to like register to vote in an election or something. So it kind of depends on the state. But if you're licensed in California, your patient was in California, and now your patient's off in Minnesota in college, great school to pick, right, Leslie? Great state to pick. Yeah. Yay, go. Then you may be able to mail the supplements to the mother. And then if the mother chooses to mail them to the child, the mother can do that. Or if the child comes home on break and gets them there, that's fine too. But in general, you kind of have to sort of know the state. The safest thing to do is obviously to mail it to the state where the client, that your patient or client is based as a medical practitioner, like to the mom's address, and then let the mom figure out how the child's going to get the supplements. Yeah. Okay. For registered nurses who I'm reading this too, Leslie, for registered nurses who have a compact license, can you work one-on-one with patients via telehealth in those states that are part of the compact license? Okay, great question. Love this question. So, and registered nurses, we all know, is a licensed medical practitioner. So the question is, if I'm part of the compact, can I work with people one-on-one in those states? So the answer would be yes, but you have to work as a nurse. You can't work as a coach, and you can't work as a nurse coach. You have to work as a nurse. Okay. So that means you need to be part of a medical practice or have a supervising physician that your medical team that you work with. You can't just like work with them as a nurse by yourself in those states. Unfortunately, I wish you could, but our laws aren't structured that way right now for RNs to do that. But you can become parts of medical practices in those states and then work with people for telehealth. Just because RNs can't practice independently. And of course, as we know, about half of advanced practice nurses still can't practice independently in the state. So the answer is yes, but you still need to be affiliated with a medical practice there. Thank you. Great question.
Yeah, that was really good. I want to just look on Insta really quick. Okay.
These are great questions.
We had a question from LCNP. As a board certified nurse practitioner, is it helpful to find a wellness program certification to meet broader criteria?
Wait, I'm sorry. Could you repeat that? I said, I heard, as you're a nurse practitioner, then I missed the last part. Can you help me find a wellness certification?
Is it helpful to find a wellness program certification to meet a broader criteria?
Okay, so this is really important too. So for any of you who are licensed medical practitioners who want to do wellness coaching or life coaching or functional health coaching or something outside of the practice of medicine or nursing or whatever, I really want you to enroll in a wellness certification or training program that does not require you to be a licensed medical practitioner as a prerequisite. Okay. I want you to enroll with everyone, with the moms, with the yoga teachers, with the lawyers, with all the people who don't have medical training and background. Why? Why? Because again, if you're investigated and that investigator says, oh, this is great. Where'd you do your health coach training? And you say, oh, well, I went to Well Coaches, or I went to, now I think Well Coaches is expanded beyond licensed practitioners, but for a long time you had to be licensed first. Or if you do an advanced training program through the requirement of being a nurse practitioner first, like someone yesterday did a functional nutrition program, but only for nurse practitioners, then the argument's still going to be, well, then you're just practicing nursing and medicine because you learn that as a nurse practitioner. It's just an expansion of, it's like what integrative medicine and functional medicine is started as. You took physicians and made them integrative and functional to expand the way they practice, but they're still doing that as a doctor. That's why it's a functional medicine doctor. You know what I'm saying? So you don't want to do your health coach training through anything that required you to be a licensed medical practitioner first. Otherwise, it's just advanced training for your licensed profession. And we don't want that. We need you to establish yourself in a separate profession of coaching. Remember, you all, the difference, again, the most base way to explain it, and believe me, I know so many of you are heart-centered, and as RDs and doctors, you do way more than just treat disease. I know that. You come from a holistic heart, a holistic place, but just for the sake of argument for the moment, in medicine conventionally, it really is about diagnosis and treatment. And you're taking the problem and solving the problem in a diagnosis, treatment, diagnosis, treatment, diagnosis, treatment. And in health coaching, you're not doing any of that. You're taking the person where they are, and like a personal trainer, remember, you're helping them meet a goal of having better health, more optimal systems. It's much more focused on how my body operates going forward to be healthier, not to repair the problem in the first place. Now, it has the effect often of repairing the problem, but that's not what you're there to do. You're not there to treat the disease. You're there to help people have a better functioning gut or digestion or circulatory system or respiratory system or whatever.
Okay.
They're different, not the same, different.
So
related, not the same.
I mean, it's so helpful. We've spoken, I can't even count the number of times, but every time I learned something. So
I'm so glad.
I appreciate that.
Great.
Let's just kind of shift just a teeny bit into legal documents. This is another really hot topic.
Yes.
And something that I know I talk about quite a bit, and especially when it comes to gathering testimonials. Like I'm always like, do this. I mean, definitely get testimonials, but let's
talk about it.
Right? You have to have, you've got to have documentation just in case. So can you comment on what are some of these legal documents that practitioners need to have in place?
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so we're going to do I'll go through what you need for a licensed medical practice first, and then we'll do what you need as a health coach, and then we'll also talk about testimonials for both. Okay.
Right.
So if you have a licensed medical practice, again, RD, doctor, nurse practitioner, you are a licensed medical practitioner with a medical practice, a dietetics practice, you need these documents. One, informed consent. And by the way, I have DIY documents for all of these that Lesli can connect you with. She is an affiliate for my DIY legal templates, but this is, there's the link. And they're very simple, easy to use, fill in the blank. There's guides and directions, and you got this. I promise you, you can do this yourself. That's why I created them that way. But anyway, so a licensed medical practice, you start with informed consent. Of course, you know this. You have to get consent to be able to treat the patient. Number two, you're going to use your HIPAA documents, right? The HIPAA notice of privacy practices. And if you are requesting medical records from someone else, you need the HIPAA medical records release form. Okay, so those are your HIPAA documents. Then third, you need the DIY telehealth form if you're going to be doing telehealth medical appointments with people in states where you're licensed but not in person. Those are the main documents. If you have a website, you need website documents, and there's a few more things. But just in general, for your medical practice, that's all you need. That's what you need. That's all you need. Patient work. By the way, my DIY informed consent form also contains like office policies and financial policies and insurance policies. It's all in one document, so you don't have to give your patient like 15 different documents. It's all in one, except HIPAA is separate and telehealth is separate. Okay, cool. You probably know most of those documents already, but just as a refresher for people who might be starting a brand new medical practice or dietetics practice. Okay, that's what you need licensed. What about a health coach? Well, guess what, you all? A health coach does not use informed consent or a disclaimer of release of liability, okay? Those are not the right documents for a health coach. A health coach is a peer to a client. So you can contract together to provide services to the client. So you use what I call a client agreement, a DIY client agreement, which says, this is what my health coaching practice includes. Here's how much it costs. Here's how communication works and refund policies and intellectual property. And here's your medical disclaimer saying I'm not a doctor and I'm not practicing medicine or nursing or therapy or medical nutrition therapy or dietetics or all the things. This is a document you both sign. It's an agreement because you are contracting together for the health coach to provide a service to a client. Back over here, remember just the contrast in informed consent. It's a hierarchical relationship. When you're a dietitian or a doctor, it is a hierarchical relationship to a patient. We know this. They're consenting to receive treatment from you based on your medical judgment. That's why we have so many ethics laws around how you use your power and your judgment and your knowledge, because you're the expert. They are subjected in the best way, but subjected to your recommendations. That's why you have malpractice insurance. That's why you can't disclaim your liability as a doctor. You are liable. That's why you have malpractice insurance. You're liable to not be negligent. So it's a different relationship when you're in a medical relationship versus coaching, which is peer to peer. Now you can disclaim your liability as a coach and say, hey, I can't do anything to hurt you, obviously, but I am not responsible for your results or for how you use this information. I'm giving you information and education. I'm not your doctor. You need to still go see your doctor about your own medical condition. So health coaching is different. So the client agreement is the main document you want to use. Then the other thing that you'll use is the DIY mini disclaimer. It's a little tiny short paragraph that you put on the bottom of handouts, or you put it on your podcast episodes, or you put it on your Facebook or social media page or Instagram. You put it, you can put it on all kinds of things, except it's not meant for your website. It's just meant for other things that you're doing. And if you're doing a group program or a DIY, whether you're licensed or a health coach, you're going to put that mini disclaimer on everything you're doing, because anything in a group program or DIY or as a health coach is not medical advice. Right? Even if you're a doctor and you have a group program, you're handing a handout, that's not personalized medical advice. You're telling the same thing to everyone. So you're saying, this isn't medical advice. Go talk to your doctor. That's how you protect yourself with the documents. You do need other documents for your website and for lots of other things that you do. But in general, to work with your clients or patients, those are the documents you need. Now let's talk about testimonials.
Yes.
Can we? Okay, cool. Now, testimonials are different for both, but there are some similar things you need to know. So first of all, if you are let's start with a health coach first. If you're a health coach and you are working with getting a testimonial from your client, you want to make sure that they're consenting. That's what Leslie's talking about, that you're very clear about how you're going to use the testimonial. Like, can I use this on my website? Can I use it in social media? Can I use it in maybe my free webinars to invite people into my next launch of my program? So the DIY testimonial release is the written document Leslie's referring to help you make it very clear to your client, this is what I'm going to say. This is how your name and title will appear. And do you consent to me using it in these ways? And I'm not going to pay you, and I don't need additional permission. It's all right here in the document. The key, though, as a health coach is you want to make sure to remember that you don't have people with testimonials giving you a testimonial about their disease. Okay. So like if you're a health coach and you're working with someone who happens to have diabetes, you're not managing their diabetes. You're not even helping to manage their diabetes. You're teaching them about blood sugar and how to eat healthy foods and how to stop eating cookies and how to eat more leafy greens and drink more water and do all the things to have a healthier diet. But if they say in their testimonial, wow, I have diabetes and my insulin went from this to this, and now I'm, doing all this stuff medically, you don't want that in your health coaching testimonial. Because you don't want people to think you're working with a diabetes and managing their diabetes. So you want them to talk about the results they have around weight loss or less inflammation, or they feel more comfortable in their body, or they're moving more, or they now know how to balance their blood sugar, and they have better energy throughout the day and less brain fog. And so you want to talk about things that aren't medical diagnoses. Okay. That's really important as a health coach. If you are a licensed medical practitioner and you're getting testimonials, you definitely need this in writing because of all of the HIPAA requirements, right? Mm-hmm. You can have them write a testimonial about their diabetes and how their insulin went from this to this and how they're improving with their diabetes, but you need to make sure you most definitely have in writing, you have their permission. So no one perceives that you're violating their confidentiality from a HIPAA standpoint. That's so important. So you also can use the DIY testimonial release and let people know how and where you're going to use their information. This is really important to you all because testimonials are critical, as Leslie teaches, to help you promote your program. She uses testimonials brilliantly and helps people see how effective you can be. But at the same time, I had a client once that did not use a testimonial release from a client. And the client had said to her, oh, you can post this on our social media page. But my client, the health coach, actually promoted it on her website, and the client went ballistic. The client went ballistic and was like, you're violating my privacy. I said that you could use it in social media in this closed setting where I kind of knew who the people were in this group. I did not say you could put it on your website for anyone and anyone to see on the internet. And I'm going to sue you now for invasion of privacy, breach of privacy. And the person didn't end up following through with the lawsuit, but as I had to say to my client, they actually had a case. You would have lost that case because you did not use their testimonial in a way they had approved. And that is a breach of invasion of privacy, even as a health coach. So you need to use it in writing and make sure you're super clear. I would like to use this on Facebook or Instagram or in my sales calls or in my discovery calls or in my whatevers and on my website. So the person knows.
Guys, I'm just going to say,
you got to take it seriously.
Take that one really seriously. I mean, take them all.
Yeah, of course.
I don't know why that one kind of scares me.
It's tricky. I know it's tricky. Well, especially if people are talking about diseases with health coaching, we can't have that. And if you are an RD or a doctor, that's fine. But then make sure you have in writing so they can't come back and say you're violating HIPAA, you're violating my confidentiality.
People sometimes have short memories, right?
Very, very short memories.
It has to be in writing.
Yes.
So I just always say, don't mess with that one because we're talking HIPAA and privacy. You just don't want to mess with it. I did want to ask you really quick. This question came up recently. What if so I get a referral as an RD, I get a referral from Dr. Jones for a specific patient. Am I allowed to call Dr. Jones and use the patient's name? Like, hey, thank you for referring.
Great.
Karen.
Do you mean on social media, Leslie, or do you mean just call Dr. Jones and say thank you for the referral?
Not on social media. I don't think.
Oh, okay.
I wouldn't do that. But are you allowed to use the patient's name?
A great question. Okay, so this is why if you're an RD and you're working with a patient, you have them sign your informed consent. and you have them sign your HIPAA forms. And
Okay.
so the HIPAA form says, typically, like the way mine is written, is that, of course, that you can contact their doctors or their insurance company or people who have reasonable right to know the information.
Okay.
It's like reasonable that you might research and talk to your doctor or their insurance company. But if they specifically write on the form, I don't want you to talk to Dr. Jones, then obviously you can't call Dr. Jones.
Okay.
But in general, most people are consenting to you to speak with their other medical practitioners. There are always exceptions for things that are sensitive, like addiction, sometimes for HIV/AIDS. For a long time, it's very, very sensitive. I don't know if it is now still. Like sometimes eating disorder actually can be perceived as very sensitive because it's
Okay.
be psychiatric. Of course, there can be hospitalization. That can be super sensitive. Like be really, really clear with them if you can talk to Dr. Jones. The HIPAA form will help you do that. But don't just call Dr. Jones about the client or patient. No, you're calling Dr. Jones.
Okay. So what if we wanted to send a thank you for the referral? Can we
Same
say,
thing.
Dr. Jones, thank you for sending me
Yeah, the same thing.
Vital, right?
You really get that contact. I mean, so I always come from the place where I need to tell you what's legal. You can do whatever you want. You can take all this information and take the risks that you want to take. I cannot tell you to do that because I am a lawyer and I cannot do that. What I need to tell you is do not contact Dr. Jones or send flowers or gifts until the patient has signed the HIPAA form, which they should do at the first appointment anyway, or right before the first appointment. So you should have that right from the get-go. And actually, you wouldn't thank Dr. Jones for the patient until the person actually became a patient. So this all makes sense, really. Get the informed consent, get the HIPAA form, then thank Dr. Jones.
Okay.
And send flowers and thanks and gifts and whatever. The idea, though, is that if you're sending a gift, it really has to be small and tiny. It cannot be, there can't be money exchanged.
Okay.
You can't, you just need to thank the person. Okay. Because otherwise you start getting into violations around conflict of interest and such, and laws around kickbacks and things and fee splitting and things. But you can thank Dr. Jones for sure. And then health coaches. This is important because health coaches say, well, what if Dr. Jones is referring someone to me? Because Dr. Jones doesn't have time to talk through nutrition with their patient and wants to refer them to me as a health coach. You very much cannot send Dr. Jones money for referring people to you. That is a clear violation of the law. You can't fee split. You can't be like, well, Dr. Jones, if you send me Susie, I'll give you 60% and I keep 40%. You cannot do that. That's called fee splitting, and that is not legal, and it can get the doctor in trouble. It doesn't usually get you in trouble, but it gets the doctor in trouble. So do not do that. You can say, Dr. Jones, I will recommend you to my clients, and as a thank you for referring people to me. That is fine. That's totally fine, because you can recommend any practitioner that you think is good and that you would like to share with anyone else, but not money or gifts exchanged. You can write a thank you note. Thank you, Dr. Jones, but no, and nothing monetary. Okay. Also, health coaches, if you want to rent space in Dr. Jones' office to have your health coaching practice, you cannot get a discounted rate. You have to rent at fair market value that Dr. Jones would rent that to someone else. That's how there's no kickback involved there. So you can work with doctors. Again, this is you having your own practice and the doctor has their own medical practice. That's how you would do that to be safe.
Okay. All right, guys, we are.
Much. I know we're only scratching the surface, but I hope this is
out
really
of time. We could go on and on.
Like, believe me.
All right. And I know there's so many more questions. We tried to get them as many as we could. That being said, unfortunately, we just couldn't get to everybody's question. So I do want to really make sure everyone knows how to get in touch with Lisa.
Of course. Of course. So everyone, thank you for your questions. And please know that my team and I offer free 20-minute legal chats to hear more about your situation and recommend your next steps. This is not a big sales call or anything like that. It's lisafraley.com/legal chat.
Okay.
Where you can book a 20-minute call, share with us your situation, and we will either refer you to a free resource, to a paid consultation or a program we have, or we will refer you to another lawyer. So it's just to give you the opportunity to share more detail, tell us about what your questions are, and then we can help you. So yes, and Leslie is sharing the link there for the DIY legal templates. If you need any of the documents we talked about, there's over 50 DIY legal templates. Please don't guess. If you don't know, just do a legal chat or contact us at clientlove@lisafraley.com. Clientlove@lisafraley.com. We will help you.
Amazing. And I just have to say, I own, I think, most all of the legal and I just have to put a plug in. I love them.
Thank you, Leslie. That's very sweet. Thank you.
Yeah, they're really, really good. And you just don't want to guess, right?
No, don't guess.
So don't guess. And this
Yeah.
is my affiliate link, just so everybody's clear on that.
That's
All right.
right.
All right, guys. This was fabulous. We
Thank
could
you,
go on
Leslie.
and on, but listen, Lisa, this was so helpful. I mean, the comments we're getting are just over the top. So
Oh, thank you. Thank you all so much for your questions, for being so participatory. Thank you, Leslie, so much for being such a wonderful leader. I know you all love Leslie. That's why you're here. She's amazing. And I appreciate her leadership in helping you stay legal, helping you stay safe, and also teaching you how to have an incredibly successful practice. So thank you all for what you do. And Leslie, thank you so much for what you do. And thank you for having me. Thank you.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, everybody. Special thanks to Lisa.
Thank you.